Hey everyone, Josh Ring here. I'm here to help you learn a little bit more about music theory so that you can in turn create better music, believe in yourself, and share your gifts with others. Today I have just a super simple but very practical thing that is learning to read music quickly and easily. Right? It's a skill that we kind of develop as musicians that sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge at first to read the various clefs that we have at our disposal. So this will be really helpful, especially if you're just starting out and need to learn a clef for your instrument, or maybe you've been at this for a little bit and now you're maybe in music school and you're being asked to learn piano, so you've been really comfortable with treble clef, now you have to learn bass clef, or vice versa. You've been really comfortable in bass clef and now you got to learn treble clef. Or maybe you've been at this just a really long time and now it's time to learn some of the more maybe obscure clefs that maybe you don't read as much, like the alto clef or the tenor clef. Whatever the case may be, if you're wanting to read music quickly and easily, this will be helpful for you. And before we dive in, I just wanted to give you a free gift for hanging out with me. This is my music theory survival guide. It has a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, but it just has a lot of different aspects about music theory so that it will help you create better music. To get this, just go to joshring.com/free again for this awesome free music theory survival guide. So let's dive in with learning to read music quickly and easily. All right, guys. So the number one way I would recommend to learn to read music quickly and efficiently is this great app called Tenuto. They have it for iPad and iPhone. Here I'm using it on the iPad. I love it on my phone, so I can just have it with me wherever I go. They also have a web browser version, which I'll put the link in the description below, so you can use that if you don't have Apple products still. As you can see, there's just a lot of great things in here. I have my students use this app a lot for all sorts of various things. What we're going to be talking about today with learning to read music quickly, I'm going to have us at the very top, note identification here under the staff identification section. So when we open it up, we can see right away it opens up treble clef. It has a bunch of notes at the bottom. And as we go through, we can click on them and say, oh, we got it correct or not. And once we answer a question, it'll move on to the next note, and it just picks it at random. So as we're going through, we can test ourselves to see how we're doing. So that's all well and good, but the glory of this app comes in the ability to mess with the settings. So up here in the top right, we have the gear. So here we have settings that we can customize. And there's quite a few that we can work with. So let me walk you through some of the best ones. So here with clef, so you can choose what clef you want to focus on. Maybe you're really comfortable at treble, and now you have to learn bass clef. So you have to go through working with bass clef, going back to treble. Maybe you're a new reader and you're learning flute. This is your first time reading music. So what I would recommend, if this is your first time, or you're not as comfortable with a clef, I would decrease the range. So right here, now we have a smaller range, and maybe that's still a lot. So under positions here, you can decide, oh, I just want the spaces, right? So the good thing about the treble clef is that FACE spells out the space. So there's face in the space. If you want down here under helpers, we can turn that on and it'll have the face in the spaces for us. So we can do that. You might cover it up with your hand so you're not looking at it constantly to see how well you could do as you're going along. And only look at it when you have to remind yourself. So I would just suggest starting there with the spaces only, and you could have the helpers on. When you put lines and spaces, it has the helpers for all of them, right? So the sooner you can get away from the helpers, the better. So now you have still a small range, and you are dealing with now the lines and the spaces. As you get more comfortable, I would say increase the range, right? Maybe you want to go all the way down to the middle C and maybe that high A, and you can do the same kind of thing. Or maybe you're going to do that now in bass clef, do the same kind of thing. The helpers there for lines and spaces, could appear. You can do the same kind of thing. Slowly expand your range so you get farther and farther out. So for just reading music, I would say under here with note names, there's a lot of different options. If you want alphabetical, that means it starts with A instead of starting with C. You can have scale degrees. So you can decide, oh, where is tonic? We're in the key of C. What scale degree right? That could be helpful. I have my students actually use Solfège, so they have to learn what are the solfège notes in a given key, and if you have the helpers on, that reminds you what key you're in. And there's a few other things, right? If you want to learn the German notation or the pitch class integer notation, but I think letters is probably the most helpful if you're going to be starting out. So let's talk about accidentals here. Accidentals under helpers here. Now we have some accidentals as we are working along, so we can have those. So that might be more helpful than I would say using accidentals. Then up here we have key signatures, so you can change what note is home. All right, so that might be helpful if you're working with something like solfège. When we were under note names for like solfège or scale degrees, that'd be a place to change up the key signature. If you're just trying to work on reading music and labeling it exactly what it is, you don't really need to mess with key signatures. Note filters is a good place if you just want to focus on certain notes, right? You can get rid of some of the notes. Next question. Personally, I keep it on immediately, but there are times maybe you want to hear what the note sounds like before it goes on to the next question. Maybe you want to like tell it. You got to tap the screen before it'll move on. That way, it kind of gives you a second to pause and make sure you actually knew the answer instead of just kind of guessing and you forgot what you guessed. So challenge mode here at the bottom. This is probably one of my favorite features. If you turn this on, you can set a time limit for how much you want to see you can get done and the time. So I personally like to have smaller time limits, like 1 minute. I don't know that I would have the patience to do a whole 30 minutes of a challenge mode. But the nice thing about challenge mode is that as you're working along, it'll keep a record as you are working. All right, so let's say, okay, I got 3 done. I'm going to end it for now so we don't have to watch me do a whole minute challenge. And it keeps a record of my high score, right? So I got 3 done that time. So let's see if I can do another challenge. And maybe this time I get some wrong and I just did not do well. I'm going to end it again. So here you can see it compared my high score versus the most recent thing I did. And if I click on them, I have these what are called progress reports. So you can see like what settings that I have. This is helpful. I have my students share the progress report with me so I can see the details they had versus maybe your last one you just did. You can see how you did. So it'll keep record, but unless you change the settings, then it kind of erases everything. The other nice thing here on the top left, it has this little bookmark. So you can decide you're going to keep those settings you just used so you can keep going back to them. So let's say you're working through your clef. So here I'm just picking alto clef because this is what I personally use because I don't read an alto clef often. I play piano and organ, so I read in treble and bass clef the most. But alto clef I just don't do as much. So if I wanted, I would say I would start with a smaller range, right? I would then just use only lines or only spaces to start, and then I would do both as I get more comfortable. And if I keep getting comfortable, I'll keep expanding the range. So I could go quite a bit down. That's the max that it's allowing me to go down. That's the max it's allowing me to go up, right? But we'll just keep it there for now. So I'll expand the range. Once I can do this pretty comfortably and do quite well in the challenge mode, I've kind of mastered just one note at a time. So what I like to do is go out back into staff identification, and then we have this chord identification at the bottom of the staff ID. So when I get into here, now I can have 3 notes or more notes at a time. So personally, what I would do is start with just major and minor triads. So as you're working through, you can say, oh, it was a major triad or minor triad. And this is nice because you have to read 3 notes at a given time. And it helps with your chord construction. So same kind of thing as we had with 1 note at a time. You can pick your different clefs. You can mess with your range, right? Same kind of thing. Key signatures. Here's under chords where we can choose, besides just major and minor triads, we want augmented and diminished as well, where we want 7th chords. So it has various 7th chords or suspended chords. Very helpful. So personally, once I've gotten comfortable at, say, my triads, then I'll put it in inversions. So now it won't be in root position. So with inversions, now you can see I have to know, okay, which one is the root. It really helps me, okay, which one now is it major, is it minor, etc. So I have to really be careful now that I have inversions in the mix to know which is which. So I think that's helpful. It adds some difficulty. You can also even increase your level of difficulty. I don't know what this accidentals of dooms. Okay, that just sounds painful. So keep it a little more friendly with level 2 or 3, say. And same kind of thing immediately for your next question, or you want to turn on a challenge mode. And again, I love challenge mode. I think it's helpful to kind of set these goals to say, okay, I'm going to get 30 in a minute or 50 in a minute. I have a lot of students that it can get over 60 in a minute with some of these. All right, so all helpful. And again, you can have these bookmarks for some of them, your settings that you're focusing on. All right, so again, start with the note ID, expand your range. Once you get comfortable with your range, you can go to chord ID. There's some other things in here. I really encourage you to check out Tenuto. I think it's worth the $5 to have it on your phone or your iPad, whatever the case may be. So you can always have it with you. You can always just do, 5 minutes here and there. I think really add up over time, right? And a lot of other great things. I really encourage you to check it out. The guys that have made this have done just a fantastic job. I really encourage you to check out Tenuto. All right, so I hope that was helpful for you wherever you're at in your music journey, just trying to get faster, more efficient at reading music. And again, remember, this is the long game we're playing here. It's going to take 5-10 minutes a day over weeks to really get efficient and comfortable reading music. It's much better to spend 5 minutes a day for weeks instead of just hours in one day and hope that it's going to stick, right? We're playing the long game here. So let me know if this was helpful or if you have any other music theory related questions. You can leave those in the comment below. And don't forget about your free survival guide. Again, joshring.com/free. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Have a wonderful day.